Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that, well, affects every single one of us, aging. And believe me, it's so much more than just counting birthdays. It's this incredible biological journey. So let's get right into the science of how and why it all happens.
Okay, let's start with this number right here, 88.5 million. So what is that? Well, that's the number of adults over 65 that we're projected to have in the US by 2050. Now, that is not just some random statistic. It's a fundamental shift that's going to shape everything from our society to our healthcare. It makes understanding the biology of aging more critical than ever before.
So let's ask the basic question. What is aging, really? From a scientific point of view, I mean. It's not just about getting older. It's a specific biological process, one that we can actually define, and, as we're about to see, one we can start to understand.
The proper scientific term is senescence. Now, I know that definition looks a little dense, but the core idea is actually pretty straightforward. All it's saying is that over our lifetime, our body's natural toolkit for repairing and protecting itself just kind of wears down. What's really key here is that science sees this as a totally normal, chronic process, not a disease.
And here's something that trips a lot of people up. Aging doesn't just kick in at 40 or 50. Nope, it is a slow, quiet journey that literally begins the moment we are born. Every single day, these tiny, almost imperceptible changes are happening inside our cells.
So, how does this super gradual process actually start to show up in our bodies? Let's zoom out for a second and take a quick tour through some of our major systems. We're going to see the effects of aging on the big picture, macro scale.
And you can see the effects are, well, they're everywhere. Our blood vessels can get stiffer. Our lungs start to lose a bit of their elasticity, making it harder to breathe. We can lose bone mass, which leads to things like osteoporosis. Even our brain can gradually shrink. And of course, our senses aren't spared, common changes in our hearing and our vision. All of these are the visible, real-world results of that deeper biological process we're talking about. Okay, so we've seen the what, the big picture changes. But now let's get into the how. To find the real culprits behind all this, we need to zoom in. I mean, way in. We're going from organ systems down to the microscopic world humming away inside every one of our cells. And right here, this is where we find the main characters of our story, senescent cells. So these are cells that have just stopped dividing. But here's the catch. Instead of dying off and getting cleared away, they just hang around. You can think of them like squatters in a building who stop paying rent but refuse to leave. And when enough of them pile up in our tissues, they start causing problems for their healthy neighbors, contributing to things like the joint issues we just mentioned.
So what tells a cell to become senescent in the first place? Well, one of the main triggers is the shortening of our telomeres. The best analogy is to think of them like those little plastic tips on your shoelaces. They protect our precious DNA from fraying. As you can see here, every single time a cell divides, those little telomere caps get a tiny bit shorter. Eventually, they get so short that the DNA is left exposed and vulnerable. That triggers alarm bells inside the cell, and it gets a permanent signal to stop dividing forever. It has officially entered senescence.
All this brings us to the biggest, most fundamental question of all. Why? Why do we age in the first place? Why would this whole process even evolve? It's a genuine biological mystery, and there are two major competing theories trying to explain it. So this slide lays out the two big ideas. On one side, you have the programmed theory. This basically suggests that aging is hardwired right into our DNA, like a genetic self-destruct sequence. Maybe it evolved to help reduce competition for resources. On the other side, you have the damage accumulation theory. This one argues it's not programmed at all. It's just the inevitable result of a lifetime of wear and tear. Now, the debate is far from over, but a lot of modern research, especially around things like antioxidants, is really influenced by that damage theory. It kind of frames aging less as a fixed countdown and more as a process that could potentially be slowed down.
All right, for our last section, let's pull all of this science back to what it means for our health every day. We've talked about the what, the how, and the why. So now it's time for the so what. What are the key processes actually driving the decline we tend to associate with getting older?
This table really boils it down to three main culprits. First, you've got free radicals. Just imagine these as tiny, unstable molecules bouncing around inside our cells like microscopic pinballs, causing damage to everything they bump into. Then there's glycation. This is where sugar molecules literally stick to our vital proteins, essentially gumming up the works and causing inflammation and stiffness. And finally, our regenerative capacity just naturally declines. Put simply, the process of cell death starts to win the race against cell replacement.
So what is the most crucial takeaway from all of this? It's that while the biology of aging is universal, our experience of it absolutely is not. Our lifestyle choices play a massive role. You know the saying, genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger? It's kind of like that. For instance, a diet low in processed sugars can directly fight back against that glycation process we just talked about, and regular exercise can boost our body's natural repair mechanisms, helping to counteract some of that accumulated damage.
So in the end, science gives us the roadmap. It shows us the machinery all the way from our organs down to our DNA. But how we actually navigate that journey? Well, that's a story that each of us gets to help write. Having the knowledge of how this process works is an incredibly powerful tool. The only question left is, what will your story be? Thanks for tuning in.